Okay, it's 5:31. I'm going to call the regular Planning Commission meeting. Today is November 18th. The land that we know as Sequim was once inhabited solely by First Peoples known as the S'Klallam people, represented by the three tribal governments, Lower Elwha S'Klallam, Jamestown S'Klallam, and Port Gamble S'Klallam. We serve as stewards of the land within the city of Sequim with the same care and consideration the S'Klallam tribes has and continues to provide. This acknowledgement is a respect to the S'Klallam people and their history. The Planning Commission serves as an advisory body to the City Council. The purpose of the Planning Commission is to provide guidance and direction for Sequim's future growth through continued review and improvement of Sequim's comprehensive plan, zoning code, shoreline management, environmental protection, and related land use documents. The Planning Commission will have all of the powers and perform each and all of the duties specified by Chapter 35A.63 RCW as amended and set forth or amended by ordinance. Roll call. Emily, will you please take roll call, noting that Commissioner Habel is not present?
Will do. Commissioner Kuntz.
Present.
Commissioner Cummings.
Here.
Commissioner Fain. Commissioner Hewitt.
Present.
Commissioner LaFever.
Here.
Commissioner Mihalik. Thank you.
Okay, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, approval of minutes. Has the Planning Commission had an opportunity to look at the minutes from the meeting on 10/21/25? And if so, are there any questions, comments, corrections? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Move to approve as presented.
Okay, is there a second? Larry seconds. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Any opposed? Okay, minutes stand approved. Public comment. General public comment will be heard at this time. Each person is limited to 3 minutes. Seeing nobody here present in the audience today, Emily, is there anybody online that would like to offer public comment?
No one online.
Okay, thank you. I will close the public comment section of this meeting. And we move on to general business, which is the 2025 comprehensive plan status update.
All righty. Well, thank you, planning commissioners. So we'll make this a short order. We're used to this agenda item, but it's always worth checking in. So again, we'll go to page 2 of the memo, and we'll just note that we are rounding the corner of finishing the policy document of the comprehensive plan. So you'll see that tonight we have the housing chapter, and we're really looking forward to that conversation. And then our last chapter will be actually then in your first meeting in December, we'll finish up the housing chapter by providing you a number of technical housing documents. And I will note that what we'll probably do at that meeting is present the documents, and Leland Consulting, Andrew and Jennifer will be online for that December 2nd meeting because they prepared most of those documents. Oh, actually, they prepared all of the documents. We did some edits to them, but they definitely were the authors of them and the data collectors and analyzers. These are this will be a housing appendix A, and so it meets meets all of the technical requirements of the Growth Management Act for housing. So again, it's not policy driven like what the work you've been doing and what we'll do tonight. Certainly you'll be able to review everything, and if you have questions, and if certainly if you have recommendations or comments or grammatical things to point out. Like it will be similar in that way, but it will be, I think it's 1, 2, so it's 3 different documents. So we're not going to go page by page on that. We'll give you an overview of what each of those documents are, what its purpose of it is. So when you review that, when you get your packet next week, think of it that way, like you're reviewing it with your questions, comments. We won't go page by page, but we'll still give you opportunity to to ask the questions, and if you want to, and then your any revisions. And then we'll finish out the year at our last Planning Commission meeting with the Economic Development chapter. And we do have a draft of that done. We also are having Leland Consulting kind of help us finalize that chapter. So we drafted it internally, gave it to them to kind of ensure consistency and incorporate some of the things that came out of their market analysis that they reported to you all last night. So we're excited about that. We're almost done with the policy document. We're down to the last 2 chapters. And then after tonight, 1 last chapter. It is my intent that after the economic development chapter, which is December 16th, that we'll provide a redlined version of the whole comprehensive plan to you all to review over the holiday season in December. We'll pick it back up in the new year, but this way you'll get some chance to see the work that you've done in 2025. It will show strikeout and underline of the edits that we've done, and then there'll be some of the things that maybe I said we'll go back and research, and we'll note that in the document as well. So in less than a month, you'll see your full comprehensive plan from beginning to end with all of your fingerprints on it. So we're very excited to be able to provide that to you here in just a couple weeks. So like I said, once we finish that second meeting in December, you'll get that document. Now, we have turned our attention, since we're getting close to the end, to the other bodies of work, in which are, of substance, which is the capital facility plan, and then updates to our development regulations. So the capital facility plan is going to be Appendix B to the comprehensive plan, and it's where the summary of the city's utility master plans and transportation master plan will be presented, and in its will be presented as required in compliance with the Growth Management Act. The city is underway with the sanitary sewer plan and the transportation master plan. The timing of the sewer plan might be a little bit longer than we had anticipated. So I have been meeting, we do have regular meetings set up with the Public Works team. It will still be part of the comprehensive plan. I just don't know whether Planning Commission is going to be able to work on it in January, February, but I'll keep you posted on that. It might get pushed to March or April. So the development regulations, we're underway in a really substantive way. I'm going to steal Travis's thunder for just a minute, and that he has completed all of our internal staff work on Title 17, which is the subdivision ordinance. It was a full rewrite, and it got delivered to the legal department today. So, yay. Yeah, so you will see that in the early new year. And then the amendments to Title 18, which we've talked about before, which is our zoning ordinance, they're going to be phased. There's going to kind of be different buckets of amendments, but the first bucket of amendment, and we'll probably talk about it at tonight's meeting, will be housing related amendments to the zoning code. It will also be amendments that were identified in the Leland report that, again, was presented last night for, for example, for uses in some of our non-residential zones, for like the EOA, the community mixed use, for regional commercial, for HTLI. All of those recommendations will also be incorporated in our first bucket of zoning code amendments. So Travis is underway and busy in that. We're having really good meetings, going through everything. So more to come, but very soon. And then just at the very end, I'll just note that I'll be making a comp plan status update to the city council on Monday, and I'll be at Coffee with Colleen on December 3rd, and I'll be presenting a very, very summarized version of the PowerPoint that and presentation from last night's report from Leland Consulting. So I meant that to be short. I said more than I meant to. So anyway, any questions on the status? Like, I'm sorry that I took longer than I meant to, but any questions?
Nope, it doesn't look like it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to new business, the 2025 Comprehensive Plan Draft of Housing Chapter.
Okay, well, we are ready to chalk housing. This is, like I mentioned in the status update, this is one of two meetings that you're going to have talking about housing. As you've heard us talk about over the last year, housing is has been the state legislature's specific interest in the Growth Management Act in the last 3 to 4 or 5 years. So over that time, they definitely added more requirements for in GMA on what to include in your housing element. The most jurisdictions, and we are following suit, break up under the GMA definition of housing element into two pieces. One is the goals and policies, which is before you tonight. And again, the technical pieces of it will be at our next meeting. So again, it's just similar to what we just talked about under the status update. So for tonight, we'll be going through the narrative like we have in the past, page by page, and your goals and policies. However, depending on what your questions are and discussion points, we may say things like, oh yeah, we'll talk about that at the next meeting, and or we'll be prepared to talk about it tonight. So I think with that, those are just kind of my introductory comments, and I'll send it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. So the first page of chapter 4.0 housing, does anybody, yes, Karen.
We use the AMI consistently throughout this, though we don't define. A citizen looking at this won't understand, generally speaking, what AMI means. So we
Okay.
need to spell that out.
Yep. So we'll add an AMI definition down under source. I'll just say AMI is, yep.
Oh,
Yeah,
That would
thank you.
work.
That was exactly what I was going to say too.
and in addition to the definition of the AMI, could you put what it is presently in dollar amounts?
Yeah, I have it. Interestingly, it's actually on your next page,
Okay.
but I'll move it up to the first page. So on Exhibit H3, which is, Emily and I laugh because you literally have 3 page numbers on all of your documents.
Oh, there we go. $93,900.
So yeah, so that's the family AMI for Clallam County, but I'll just take that full line and also include it on the very first graph here on page 1.
Because we do talk, there's a small line in here that in this particular chart that says AMI equals. But if we could put it in the paragraph so that, say, a citizen is looking at this and
Okay.
they understand.
Got it. So not just put it as a footnote, but also explain what it is as part of the
Right.
narrative.
It's
Okay.
pretty important in the concept of what we're looking at.
You got it.
Yeah, I agree. And, for somebody that maybe is reading this that, even doesn't really understand footnotes or, that for them to have the definition right there, Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Anything else on this first page? Okay, let's move on to the next one, which starts with the typical home price in Sequim and the Olympic Peninsula. How about on this one? Does anybody have anything on this page? Yes, Dennis.
Just a question on the allocations for the urban growth area. That's the county responsibility. Have you had conversations with them? Are they going to be able to meet these targets for the income levels out in the county?
They are, yes.
Okay.
And so, but I'll dig a little bit deeper into that. Yeah. So Travis and I have been engaged with Clallam County DCD with their director since starting about July when they were finalizing their land capacity analysis and finalizing their land capacity analysis by income band, because that's the new requirement this year. And that is a little bit more challenging to meet, because before it used to just be, do you have enough land? Yep, you're good to go. Now it's, do you have enough land, and do you have enough land that's zoned specific zoning to support specific types of development that are tied by income band. So they are actually going to need to do an upzoning to about four or five parcels in the UGA. And they have coordinated with us on that, and so we've support that upzone. So with that, they will meet their allocation by income band for in that table. Where they are having trouble is meeting the emergency housing beds of 27 beds there on that table, and that is because emergency housing beds are in general being zoned or being allowed in non-residential or commercial zones. And that's because the state legislature is equivalating them to like hotels and motels. And so there is no non-residential zone property in the SQUIM UGA. So they do not actually have capacity for those 27 beds without a rezone. And they started the conversation with Travis and I was like, well, can we transfer those 27 beds to the city limits if you have capacity? So in fact, I was just working on that before coming down here. We do have capacity for that 27 beds. We have excessive capacity based on the methodology that Commerce tells us to use when calculating for emergency housing. We have capacity for 5,400 beds in four of our commercial zoning districts. So so our allocation, if you can see on the table, is 164. So with that 27 beds, that's a total of 190. We certainly do have capacity. Travis and I talked about it. It makes sense for us to take that allocation for the reasons that it's appropriate to have those beds in the city limits with services and access to transit. And, so I'll be briefing the city council on Monday about the Clallam County DCD's request for a reallocation of those numbers. So if the city council authorizes me to write a letter of concurrence to this reallocation, then this table will be modified in your next iteration, where it will be 0 for emergency housing and the 190 will move to the city limits. So sorry, that was a little long-winded, but actually it was a really relevant question because we were literally working on it about 10 minutes ago. So
Perfect. I love to see the coordination with the county on something this important.
it's been we've been very cooperative and collaborative through it. They've been really good, easy and good to work with. We haven't had any big issues at all that we weren't able to work out.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions on this page? Okay, let's move on to the next, which is goals and policies and accommodating growth and housing provisions. How about this page? Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yes, Larry.
I just want to note that H-1.2, we talk about kind of considering getting things near services and transportation facilities. Later on, we're going to talk about diversifying the people who would obviously be clustered there through other areas. So I'm going to bring us back to that when we get down to H4.8.
Okay, thank you. So nothing else on this page. Let's move to the next. This one starts with the H-2.1 and also goes into existing housing in neighborhoods. Anything on this? No? Okay, let's move to the next. This one starts with goal H-4, promote and facilitate the provision of affordable, safe, and suitable housing. How about this one? Yes, go ahead, Dennis.
Just policy H-4.4. How are we going to promote and encourage private developers to do that without inclusionary zoning?
Well, I just say we're prepared for this answer or to this question.
Okay.
And so we're prepared to talk about inclusionary zoning as well, but I'm going to actually turn the mic over to Travis because we do have an answer, and a lot of it we'll be talking about as I gave you a quick preview of what we're planning to bring forward as our first packet of zoning code amendments. So here we go.
So we have already drafted what we're calling a affordable housing exceptions section of code, and I actually printed it out, and if you want to see it, I'll pass them out. But essentially what it's going to do is the state through various RCWs has authorized the city to allow for or basically to incentivize affordable housing through a variety of different ways, whether that's increasing density, eliminating development standards such as setbacks, heights, all types of things. So we're already taking a look at it. So we're creating a code, which is in essence the process by which nonprofits, entities that will take advantage of subsidies, which can even be private developers in conjunction with nonprofits or entities that can provide subsidies. So it's not going to exclude necessarily any type of developer, but it'll be a process where you can really maximize the use of land to provide for affordability. And that is kind of the kicker, right? Is that the affordability is the thing that gets you those incentives. Like that has to be included in it. And so by including affordability, we're able to say, all right, you can go, well, council will probably be the ultimate decider to be able to say like you can exceed your density, you can maximize the use of land, you can exceed your height limits, you can do all these things as long as affordability is met. And what that means is keeping it deeply affordable or affordable for 50 years, right? And having the programs in place and the people to manage those programs in place that will keep it that way, because obviously the city isn't in a position to do that. It's the nonprofits, it's the housing authorities, it's all of these folks that is their bread and butter. That's what they do. So where we can encourage it and kind of get out of the way, then they're able to make it happen. So that's our first crack at it. So that's a draft that we wrote actually a couple months ago, I think now. But yeah, like the exceptions that the RCW allows, which there's two referenced there. 3670A 540 is basically the one that allows us to do it. And then 3583, which is also in one of the policies, is for housing authorities. And so, we're excited about rolling this out and letting those developers tell us what makes the most sense, and then just kind of seeing what happens. So that's what we've started with, and yeah, so
Perfect. Thank you.
yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, it is kind of the precursor to inclusionary zoning, right? It is like we're gonna do this and see how it shakes out. Other cities that kind of are more squeezed for land capacity and things, they're mandating that you must with all new developments. We're not kind of in that position yet. If we started to mandate inclusionary zoning, the private developers that already feel pinched when they come because of impact fees and things like that, inclusionary zoning is just another thing that could squeeze them. And we don't want to put like a chilling effect on development out here. We want to see multiplexes at market rate potentially, because that's the middle housing and the income bands at, even the 80 to 100%, or, even the 50 to 80. So getting that is our priority. And then seeing what this code allows people to take advantage of to even maybe go down. We'll see how it goes. So this is our entry into that field. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yes.
Great. Good dive. I love it.
Yeah.
So, so last night, I was talking about a fund that some tax dollars would go in to help subsidize nonprofits or even pay for a permit kind of thing. What was the name of that?
So it's the affordable housing tax credit. So we do have a fund. The city does have a fund that exists, and it's got, I think you said, about $150,000 or so in it. We have some ideas of how we could kind of put that to work, but obviously that'll take some council direction. But we're totally willing to share the ideas. I mean, it could be something as simple as, permit fee waivers,
Right.
just kind of set evaluation and say, okay, we're willing to waive this. It probably won't get up into like waiving entire impact fees for developments, because that would probably deplete the entire fund in one development. So, but it is something that we're talking about as, hey, we've got this money here. How do we at least eliminate something so that can help out in some way?
We need more money.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah. I mean, there's,
so what is the parameter? What percentage of
I don't
what
know.
tax goes into this fund? Any ideas?
yeah, we can definitely look more into how the funds are generated, to see what grows it. But
Doesn't grow a lot quickly, which is my understanding why the council hasn't made any decision on it, because they wanted a number of years to go by so that there was a substantive amount of money that they could make then a policy decision on. So, I don't know exactly what that number is going to be. 150 is a great place to sit. And I think if it's, if they want to, they can start having that conversation about what they, what they might want to use that money on. This fund, this credit, though, will never raise enough money to actually build and sustain housing. So what this fund can do is provide some opportunities for funding gaps that might be experienced, but it would take many, many years to raise the $10 million plus to actually build housing. And I don't believe that, at least I mean, I don't know, but the city is pretty small to get into the affordable housing building business.
So one of my visions about this was that possibly maybe the city could purchase the land and designate that through these funds or whatever, out of Matt's paycheck, but that would be, at least the land would be there.
yeah, so some larger cities that have the ability, in addition to inclusionary zoning, they're also doing like a fee in lieu. So instead of including affordable housing, they have the opportunity for market rate developments to pay a fee. That's basically an affordable housing fee. And then they are able to use that money to go and either purchase land or to help pay for development. Now, the thing that, like, one of the real examples that I got when I was at the planning conference is like a city of Sammamish. They've got a regional housing authority, or ARCH, and they have kind of set a dollar amount to charge on a square. Like, basically they do it's not quite $35 per square foot of market rate. So like in an example of, if you were doing a market rate triplex and they were 2,500 square feet each, so just a 7,500 square foot 3-unit building would generate over $260,000 in affordable housing funds. But that's also a $260,000 affordable housing fee for market rate development. And so a triplex multifamily building is something that we are still trying to get in SQUIM, not scare away. And so if we tried to implement something like that, that's where we feel like here in SQUIM, at least, we would really feel a chilling effect on development as a whole, because then you'd start to push out that middle housing, and people would really just, it could thwart all development. So that's really the fine line we're trying to walk of, we have a real opportunity to do middle housing in our mixed use zones that are all allowing these types of uses, multiplexes, apartments. That's kind of where we want to prioritize development to happen, because that'll really account for a lot of the income bands that we have to hit. We're willing to talk about multifamily tax exemptions. We're willing to talk about bonus density in market rate through a PRD, which is planned residential development. We have that in code right now that allows you to get a 25% density increase. Nobody's using it. So that's kind of like, we've got something in code. So that's something we've identified as we're going through 18. It's like, okay, how do we make it more attractive? Like, what do we get to really get people to take advantage of this 25%? Do we need to make it 33%? Like, those are the conversations that we're having to try to figure out what makes sense. But really, I think the middle housing is kind of what we're sitting on right now, is that needs to be prioritized. And once we get that, then, if we get a abundance of that, then maybe that's when we can think about other stuff. But that could be years from now, because right now SQUIM's predominantly single family. And yeah, we need to address the missing middle. Right.
Okay.
That's our goal right now.
Okay.
I have a question about that fund. So if it's not going to, like, if it is slowly increasing over time, but essentially we're not really using it right now, do the governing policies of the city allow you to maybe place those funds in, like a CD or short-term savings account that has a higher interest rate that's very low risk?
Sure, I think probably, but I'm certainly not the finance director. But I do know that there is opportunities to do things like that. So we certainly can talk to the finance director and determine whether or not that's something she's done. It's possible she has, given that the council direction was let's let it sit and
Yeah.
accumulate to an amount that is meaningful.
Yeah, well, because if you could earn, 3.5%, 4%, depending on what, I don't know what the rates are right now, but, compared to 0.5%, we've been very successful with that with the Chamber of Commerce, and, have been implementing that for a couple years now, and it's really making an impact. So, and if you have $162,000 in there, that's quite a bit. So, Eileen.
This fun thing, needs to be fed. So and is that even mentioned in this section of our comp plan?
So I want to say that we have policy 4.6 actually speaks to additional local options to address affordable housing funding gaps. And so your surplus land donation and the tax levy. I'm not sure if that's the same thing, because I think that that's a county one, but we could add the local one in here. But that's 4.6 addresses that there are going to be a need for, again, funding, the ability for government to help with funding gaps. And then I did want to also note on 4.10, which is I know it's on our next page, but it is it's kind of our coup d'etat policy, where it really acknowledges the role that government has to play in providing for affordable housing, especially 50% or less, and that is not going to be able to be provided by the market, but we can talk
Yeah.
about that when we get there.
So, and the comments that you made a couple times about the council just wanting it to sit. Well, how long is it going to sit? And are they going to evaluate? There's there a timeline for them to evaluate the progress, or do you know?
I really don't. I have to say that I only know
Okay.
that is what I've been told.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it's been a conversation. It's something that we can certainly communicate to the council as part of the comprehensive plan process that, that the planning commission is curious about what the intent of it is. So I can.
I would really like that,
Mhm.
and I'd be glad to call anybody if you want me to. And just to find out, well, what's the potential of this fund? Is this just gonna, and I think you said it was established it's been established for 5 years and it only has that much money in it?
It really does not generate.
Well, we need to fix that.
That
And I think we can. I mean, I don't know what percent of the tax, I don't know any
And
of
that's
that
a state
either,
legislature decision. And, they certainly could raise that rate. Yeah. I mean, they could. It's what it's what the state legislature has established for that rate.
wait a minute. I thought it was a city council thing and now you're saying it's a state thing?
Okay. So the state legislature authorized the tax credit and they've established the rate. And you had local jurisdictions had to opt into doing that in 2020, which the city of Sequim did. And then at that time, and enacting that's authorized by the state, the city, because it's not a lot of money that gets generated. It's a couple tens of thousands of dollars per year that they were going to let it collect the money so that there's a meaningful amount. Anything beyond that the city council, that's what I've been told about that fund. So if today's that day that they should start having that conversation, it might be, but the information I was given by the finance director was the kind of the genesis of it. So, yeah.
Okay,
Right.
thank you. I think Alex had his.
Oh, just as a
And
point of
then-
reference, if you need to encourage the city council to do something more with the fund, the state mandates that HOA reserves are invested in an interest-bearing account, and you can easily get 3.5%, like in an Apex fund with Sound Bank, just off the top of my head. Not even tying it up in a CD. So it's a great time to make. We make over almost $900 a month on 300,000, and it's all available at any moment. And if you keep it under 250, it's insured. Anyway, that's all.
Thank you.
Harry?
So this is on 4.6 where we talk about I think the city did something for Habitat, right? Didn't we get like a big grant for them?
That was a grant through the state.
So
Yeah,
that
for
was an
infrastructure.
example of 4.6, right? Where
Yes.
where the city went out but there was a timeline on that. And is that proceeding? Because that's a big chunk of affordable housing. Is that on track?
Yeah, my understanding, actually, we just had a meeting last week about it, of a number of the management team and our grant wizard, Megan Euchre. And so so the grant is what's called a CHIP grant. I don't know exactly what it stands for, but I do know what it does. And it helps provide infrastructure, basically subsidizes the cost of infrastructure that an affordable housing project, which would be 80% or less AMI. And so it's through the state of Washington Department of Commerce. So those grants have to be sponsored by a government agency. So City of Sequim is the sponsor of the CHIP grant for the Habitat for Humanity project. And the reason we were meeting was because one of their board of trustees members, who's kind of seems to be serving a bit as a project manager, has been communicating that they're ready to move forward, in the sense that they are moving forward and getting a project a project manager for the project. So they do have land use entitlement from our department. They need to do their final engineering, and then they can submit for their grading plan and for their site construction permit. The grant is valid through 2027. So June of 2027. So even though that feels far away, they actually do need to get underway because they need to start construction at some point in 2026 in order to kind of meet that timeline.
So I think that's a great example that we often forget about, where we've done everything we can do. I'm going to go back to what you told us several months ago. We're to facilitate certain things, but we're not the builder. And we're not going to complete it, but we've done everything in that case for affordable housing. And I forgot the number. So I just want to compliment you and thank you for the update. This kind of leads me into 4.8, if I can.
Yeah, go for it.
Which was kind of my thing about dispersing, where we want to disperse low to moderate income people throughout the city. And this particular location is pretty dispersed. It's going to be pretty far away from the transportation corridors that low to moderate income people might use. And so I'm wondering if in 4.8, we want to tighten up the throughout to be somewhat more in line with H-1-2, which is near, maybe throughout the city near transportation and services, so that if they were on this side of the highway, it would make more sense. And those two would be in alignment. So this is just a suggestion and an observation. So do with it as you will. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Dennis.
My question's on H4.6, and it's on the multifamily tax exemption. And I guess it's a couple of questions that I have. Has the state extended their sunset provisions that they had when that tool actually was developed?
They have.
Okay.
They did that a couple years ago, but yeah.
Okay.
Did.
And would that be an effective tool for us, do you think? Because I think the property tax that is exempt through a multifamily construction is spread throughout the community.
Correct. So I just want to apologize again. I do have a little bit of a long-winded answer for this, if you guys will bear with me on it. But the multifamily tax exemption, or MFTE, you might hear us and folks talk about that, is actually it's been a tool that has been successfully used. And there's two pieces to it. One is market rate housing. And so there's a 7-year program, and that has been very successfully implemented in the state of Washington in cities. And it really is, it's really like that kind of economics 101 concept where you're like, let the government step in, give some government subsidies, assist for the private market, get them stabilized, and then get out and let them succeed. And so you have seen that. So if you are City of Bremerton has used it very successfully for a number of their downtown projects. City of Everett used it very, very successfully. If you are familiar with City of Tacoma and the Ruston area, where that all the new apartment buildings that are down there, that kind of was the old Superfund site. It was redeveloped, and now it's got hotel, apartments, restaurants. That was all an MFTE program. It was under that 7-year market rate program. And it helped. It was exactly what they needed to make the pencil project, or the project pencil. That's what I meant to say. And especially during the time of increasing costs for materials. There's a 10-year program and a 20-year program, and those have an affordable housing component to it. So if you want, and let me just back up for a second before I talk to the 10 and 20 and the affordable housing. The multifamily tax exemption is what this is a property tax exemption for the property that is granted by the county of record for that project. So in Clallam County, obviously it would be Clallam County, and it is an exemption for that project, but it is not an exemption of the tax. So the tax does get dispersed, and it, depending on the county, which I don't actually know what Clallam County's policy is, but depending on the county, it will either be dispersed to all other property owners either in that jurisdiction or in the county as a whole. So in Kitsap County, I do know that they disperse the tax to all taxpayers. And I think also I did some work for the city of Everett, and I also believe that's the same for Snohomish County. But I am aware that some counties disperse the tax within the jurisdiction of the MFTE program. So that's the unpopular side of MFTE, because otherwise it sounds great, but what it is it's shifting the tax burden. So that's what MFTE is, a tax burden shift to stimulate development of a certain type of unit. And they're almost always multifamily, multi-story, multifamily, and often mixed use. For the 10-year tax exemption or the 20-year tax exemption, they do have a affordable housing component to it. So they do have a requirement that a certain amount of the units must be in affordable housing, and they define that, and that's 80% AMI or 50% AMI. The jurisdiction can actually define what affordable housing means for that program, or for that project. And it has to be held in long term. I think it's 10 years or 20 years. And so during that time, you get that tax exemption, but you must keep those units in that affordable range. That has been less successfully implemented. So as you would imagine, most market rate developers are not usually in the business of doing affordable housing, but there have been some 10 years used, but 20 years is going to be used by our nonprofit organizations or our housing authorities. So, which I think to some and I'm not even sure whether they pay property taxes, to be honest with you. And so I'm not sure how successful that is, but I did know I worked on, when I was working for City of Everett, there was a project where I think it was a combination of public-private for the 20 years, and that their housing authority was part of that project as well. So the 10 to 20 year piece of it is been less successfully implemented, but there has been implementation for it. The MFTE has to have a geographic boundary on it, and so it's not right citywide. It's not like everywhere, but there again, you do have an overlay on like what would be an MFTE area, and you can have multiple areas. And so the city determines what that is as well. The jurisdiction does. And so City of Everett, I said, had 5-6 different areas. Downtown was the place where it was implemented the most successfully, meaning more developers wanted to build in downtown Everett than they did other places. So again, it can be used strategically for development, to incentive, to use. So we've talked about it at a very high level as maybe downtown, the larger downtown area might be a geographic area, but maybe not. Maybe our CMU zones are what we might want to propose a 7-year MFT and see how the market responds to that. I have been told in the work that I've done on MFTE, this was a couple years ago, so I don't know what it is today, and it was not in Clallam County, but oftentimes, if not all of the time, the MFTE is that thin margin that gets a project a pencil. So it is and can be a tool. I just don't know how successful it will be for affordable housing. So sorry, again, I apologize for the long-winded answer, but I wanted to kind of give you more of a comprehensive, discussion on what MFTE is and what it can do.
Oh, that was excellent and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Eileen?
New topic.
Okay, we're ready.
So, and I brought this up last night too. There's a lot, support and participate in coordinated housing strategy, promote and encourage private developers. So who's going to do that? Is that in somebody's job description, or is that, should we be more specific about that? Or is this just the goodness of the city is going to promote
Okay.
goodwill with the developers?
Well, I'm going to cue it up for Travis. We were ready for this question. You gave us the preview yesterday, so we do appreciate that. I just want to note that these policies and the language is consistent throughout all of the chapters. And so these are high level, language. It is, we are promoting, supporting, considering, encouraging. Every chapter uses those words. I understand that housing is of specific interest and worthy of this extra conversation, and the state has put it on us too as well. So I guess I just want to note that the language is consistent with what we have in the rest of our code. But to your point, how are we going to do that? That's what everybody wants to know. And every jurisdiction kind of cracks the code as best they can, with the understanding that it is a difficult code to crack. So Travis is prepared to kind of talk through some of the 3 pathways that we've identified that we as a DCD department, whose job is basically development code and assisting developers, how we see we're going to encourage and promote the provision of affordable housing. And when we talk about affordable housing, I'm going to cue this up for you. Are you ready? So affordable housing, there's 2, we've talked about a couple things where affordable housing, when we speak to affordable housing, we mean 80% AMI or below. But there is the need, which Travis talked about middle housing in other types of housing that's market rate, and that's 80% or above. And those are 2 paths that have different approaches to it. There's times of convergence in our zoning code, but they do have 2 different approaches. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Is that okay? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and I think we kind of touched on it a little bit, right? We've got the developers, we've got the nonprofits, and then there's the city. So there's the 3 kind of the players, if you will, in potential providers of housing. So the developers, we've touched on potentially MFTE, right? Like that is something we could do for them. Figuring out ways to allow bonus density, and maybe that's with the inclusion of affordable housing as an incentive. Like if you do this, you can build more, and then that way it gets to a point where it actually kind of pencils out for them, so that it doesn't feel like a loss, or that we're asking them basically to eat their profits. Even considering fee waivers for specific middle housing types, even for market rate. So for these unit types that we are really strongly pushing for and that would satisfy these income band levels, like let's figure out ways that maybe there's a way we can waive some fees. For the nonprofits, it's in front of you. Like that's the code that we're really going to lean on for them as the way to get that development built. I think that's probably our strongest path forward, because it gets it into the hands of the true players that are well versed in it, that are equipped to provide it, that are equipped to keep it in affordable housing for the 50 years and on. And then for the city, we've got the tax credit. Our idea is, like I touched on a little bit, we could we'll have to talk with the council, of course, and maybe there's only a certain amount each year that gets spent so that it doesn't just get depleted, but maybe it's 10% of all permit fees get waived and it comes out of that fund. So there's real things that we could do, but really it's about getting the players that are necessary to want to do it. And so our role is getting out of the way as much as we possibly can to say, let's do it. Let's figure out a way to make it happen. Here's everything we've done to try and provide that. I mean, but it's going to take a housing authority. It's going to take a Habitat for Humanity. It's going to take all these people and potentially subsidies to really make it work. And so that's kind of the I know
That's
we've
all
kind of
great
all said
stuff.
that. Yeah.
So how are you going to get that message
Uh-huh.
to them? I guess that's my, are you going to
That
go
we're
to
open
these
for
meetings?
business. Is that
Yeah,
kind of,
yeah. Tell them to come to a planning commission meeting or have lunch with them.
Right.
I think that, just, and meetings, you can go to meetings all week and you can't get your work done. So,
Yeah.
so I don't know if you've thought about how to link this trifecta of
Yep.
people.
I think
to-
the very first thing we can do, in the city manager has actually already asked me to do this as part of, me being here, is to consistently attend the Housing Solutions Committee that Clallam County has. And this is a body that has all the planning directors are on it, a number of developers, and the nonprofits in the Housing Authority. And it really can be the place where we can speak to our nonprofit and housing authority providers and speak to, okay, here's what we're doing. So, it's not at the next meeting in December, I'll probably be able to report out that like we're working towards an affordable housing exceptions code and what that could mean to them. So I think that's probably for the first step, is to really be making those connections with the people that are in fact going to be the providers for the 80% or 50% AMI or less. The 80, between the 50 to 80, but mostly the 80 to 120 are going to be market rate. We have been consistently meeting with developers and making sure I've been meeting with everyone who's asked for a meeting with me to make sure that our message of getting to yes is being told clearly to them. We'll also be engaging with them on our development regulations updates. Travis has actually already been talking to a big developer in the community. Will be using our developers forum that has been, maybe inconsistently used over the years. We'll be establishing that in January, and we'll be walking through with them what our code amendments are and how we're providing ease of administration on our side, predictability for them, and then highlighting the changes that we've heard from them through the stakeholder interviews, through the Leland report, as well as just what Travis has heard, or from his tenure here, and what I've heard when I've met with developers. So, I mean, I really want to pause and appreciate what you have to say, your point, Aline, because it is like, okay, we can say this all day, but what does that really mean? And what that means is what Travis and I are saying. What it means is we're changing code. We're streamlining our permitting process. We're making ourselves available. We're meeting with developers, and we'll participate on the Housing Solutions Committee. We meet with Serenity House. We'll meet with Habitat for Humanity. We can do everything we can do, except for we can't build it. Right. Yeah. But I mean, I appreciate what you're saying, and I want you to know that we're taking the assignment seriously. We are taking it seriously, and we're doing what we believe we can do that's meaningful.
And you're doing great stuff. So you need to share that with them. So they'll go, oh, of course I'll build all these affordable houses for you.
Well, we appreciate what you're saying.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on that before we move to the next page? No? Okay, I think this next page is 17 of 18. And at the top, it starts with policy H-4.9. So how about, yes, Larry?
I guess I just don't know why H49 is a policy that we're going to comply with the RCW.
Travis had the same question.
I mean, it seems like we could have a lot of policies if we're going to say we're going to comply with all the RCW.
Yes, so. Yeah, so 4.9 has that and 5.5 has it. I think those are the two specific ones. So I guess I will tell you what my rationale is, and it's certainly if you guys want to pull it out, I understand. But I put them in there in specific response to a letter that FutureWise wrote to the city of Port Angeles, and they had it's like a what was it, 15-page, 17-page letter that covered a number of things, but a lot of it had to do with housing. And so they just had comments in there like, ensure that you're consistent with the faith-based housing, ensure that you're the emergency shelter, so reading to 5.5. And so as I was reviewing the letter just to learn and glean from it what they may comment to us on our comprehensive plan, I thought those are super easy policies to put in there to say that we're going to do that. But I do hear what you're saying, because like why those and not others, because there's plenty of others, but that really is the reason why.
And so I would just caution you, welcome to Clallam County. You're going to get a lot of letters. You may have, so yeah, you can leave it if you want to. It could get out of hand if every letter from somebody.
Right, we responded to specifically. So I mean, do you have okay, I was gonna say, I mean, I'm happy to hear what the consensus of the planning commission is, if you want it or not. That was the rationale.
It doesn't take up that much room on the paper. It saves time, and I mean, it doesn't, it's not superfluous. It's fine.
Anything else? All right, anything else? Oh, yes, Alan.
For the policy H 4.9, just so you're aware of the possibilities, United Methodist Church of Port Hadlock had excess property, and they've got a 10-unit tiny home community, and there's sort of an ad hoc Bayside Properties management team that manages all of that, and there's shared bathroom and laundry facilities and whatever for those tiny homes. So isn't that fabulous that they were able to get that started there? And maybe Travis has more details.
Well, no, I was just going to say in addition to this, like the kind of to really drive the point home, like this will be a something that's written into the zoning code specifically, like where, this type of use may not be permitted in the zone, but if there's a faith-based organization within the zone, which can happen just about anywhere, they have that exception. So like this policy will tie into what we write into zoning code that says they've got the ability to make this happen. So there is at least that kind of extra connection.
So the Church of Larry.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
I just thought maybe I'll
You get established,
universalist certificate after
follow
all.
the process, and there you go.
Oh, and before we go further, I just looked up median household income in Sequim, and it looks like it's closer to 53,000. So AMI and median household, I think AMI, at first glance, it looks like household income, but it must be some different formula to be
I think
almost twice as much
and I
as
think it's combined. So like that, I think the 53 may be individual.
households.
Yeah, and then the 93 would be.
Oh, this one has households. I'll have to figure
Okay.
who's where the data is from and how to jive, because 93 sounds a little high
Totally.
for me.
It's two people.
Because if the average salary is 35 to 40 to people who without a degree, and there's even two of them, and they've got kids, they only have 70,000 income. and,
I think that's a good point.
not surviving. They don't bring in 93 unless they each have a really good job for the area.
Or unless they're a skilled laborer.
Skilled labor, yeah.
Just because you have a college degree doesn't mean you're.
Oh,
going
yeah, oh,
to-
yes, absolutely. You could be an electrician, a plumber, a tile, redo, and do very well. Or a locksmith. My son made like 130,000 as a sole proprietor.
My son that works for us makes more than I do. The plumber. Okay, anything else on this page? No? Okay, so let's move on to, looks like the last one, which just has 4 policies on it. Does anybody have anything? Yes, Dennis.
I am fully supportive of design standards. Are we looking at, or do we have design standards for single family residences at this point? Are we going to go into that slippery slope? Good.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we don't implement design standards on up to 4-unit dwellings unless it is in the residential zone. So then that's where, when you get an administrative conditional use permit, there are some additional design standards that you do have to provide. And that is just essentially to ensure that the buildings have the visual kind of appearance and aesthetics of a single family home, is kind of the intent behind that. But everywhere else, if you're doing multifamily, in a mixed use zone, if it's a single building that is 4 units or less currently anyway, you would not have to follow design standards. But as soon as you go 5 units or out, then design review would apply.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else on this last page? No? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate this. Do you have any questions for us, or are you?
No, I just really appreciate the conversation, you guys. I mean, this is a challenging, oh, yeah, actually, thank you. We can put that under director's report. Okay, I'll let you do director's report. Sorry, we just had a little conference here. No, I just really appreciate the conversation, and the affordable housing everyone's wrestling with it. So just thanks for letting us talk through some of the things that we've been talking through with each other and with Leland Consulting, and really trying to think deeply on how we can best do a response to it, and that's within our ability to be responsive to it. So thanks.
Okay, thank you. Director's report.
There we go. So actually, I'll turn it over to Travis, but it is other than this, I don't have anything other than what I talked about at the status comp plan status update. But
So in response to the short-term rental stuff, we're thinking either could be incorporated through a policy, maybe doesn't need to, but essentially to do a follow-up as part of the annual work plan for Planning Commission that gets presented in, I believe it's July of each year, or it has to be agreed upon by July of each year and then goes to council, that we could do an update every year as kind of like an annual check-in to see like, okay, so here's the report based on kind of the same findings or same process that Leland used to say, is there any significant change? Does it warrant us taking a closer look, or is it still just kind of status quo? So that's kind of where we're kind of putting a bow on that and saying, this is what our intentions are, and just kind of wanting to see, like, does that sound agreeable, or any hard feelings about that, or does that seem?
it would be implementing the recommendation that Leland presented to you guys last night, which is doing a subscription to the program that they used, that AirDNA, thank you, that established what the numbers are. So we can flesh out details. We haven't done that yet, but we did want to take your temperatures. Like that feels like that's an appropriate response to what was presented by Leland last night. And and I mean, the key is keeping tabs on it to determine if it does tick up, and it does, then what's that number, and what do we want to do? Then we can have that conversation.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't realize that, I thought the short-term rental problem was a bigger problem than it really is. So I was happy to see that. I do think that we should have some language around it, but I don't know so maybe it is, we just check in once a year. And, if we have, the big resort property come in where there is a huge abundance of short-term rentals that might, that are all concentrated in one place, that could really change the look of the short-term rentals that are, in Sequim proper. Because, if people have 300 to choose from instead of 75, that might change. I'd hate to create something that, in the code that is just going to become irrelevant should that property go through. Anybody else?
I would agree with that. I just noticed how steeply it declined, and it could just as steeply increase, right? As we looked at that bar chart they had, it really fell off over the years. It might have had to do with property values increasing, and so I'm going to sell my vacation home or my second property or whatever. But it was. I would like to look at it yearly. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I think that's why they recommended it.
Yep. Great. Yeah. And yeah, that's easy. We'll make it so. And then, yeah. And also just to note what you guys heard last night too, is that the short-term rentals does play an important role in the hospitality tourism industry too. And so it's worth keeping tabs on that as well, just to make sure that that's balanced, that continues to provide an important role in that we have that balance too.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
Anything else on the director's report? Okay, how about go to the order? Does anybody have anything? Karen?
I like the way the council proceeded with their meeting last night in the agenda. They have the same paragraph, similar paragraph in the beginning, but they don't read it out loud. It's on the agenda. And then they don't do the pledge. They move right into business. So I'd like the commission to consider mirroring the same procedures as the council utilizes.
Can I make a comment on that?
Sure.
They did not do that because it was a work session, but at their regular council meetings, they do read the statement and do the pledge.
Do they?
Mhm.
Okay, just the work session they didn't.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes. We can, if it's at the pleasure of the planning commission, we can find out what the protocol is from the city clerk and report back at the next meeting, if that's helpful.
Yeah, and I agree. We have been trying to align and mirror in other areas, so it would make sense to be consistent. Anything else for go to the order? Okay, well, come to our last agenda item, which is adjournment. Is there anyone that would like to move to adjourn?
I move we adjourn at 6:45.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. All right, meeting adjourned at 6:45.
Does the city council do that same thing that we do to adjourn?